Okay, Drew, last year Ontario experienced an absolutely beautiful summer, and the crop yields prove that. What kind of summer or what kind of spring and summer can they expect this year?
Well, I think they will be caught up a little bit in a little bit of a wetter bias as well for a little while. Now, in the eastern portions of Canada, I think that the some of the weather patterns that are going to come up this summer are actually going to have a little bit of a cooler and yet biased on the cooler side of normal, and then at the same time have some below average precipitation potential. So it's not going to be a bad summer over there at all. Obviously, for right now, there's going to be a fairly high frequency of precipitation coming up over the next 4 to 6 weeks. So some areas in Ontario will likely turn pretty wet. But that will be a short-term thing, and it isn't like the prairies in the sense that it's going to be a real major problem getting into the fields. Yeah, there's going to be some delays, but they don't have the excess moisture to begin with. As we go forward in time, there will be this ridge of high pressure that I mentioned before that will build up in the states and reach over into the southeastern corner of the prairies. And as that ridge does just that, it should put most of Ontario's crop country on the downside or on the front side of the ridge. And that is usually an area that's favored for a little bit of drier, biased conditions. And at the same time, the temperatures will probably be a little bit on the mild side. So I think the worst scenario for them, which isn't really all that bad, is the fact that they will probably have a little bit of a drier bias in the heart of the summer for July and probably August, and but the precipitation will be a little bit below average, and the temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler than normal as well. And so it'll be not ideal, but it's not going to be nearly the potential problem that some of us will have in the prairies.
So that may have a negative effect on their corn yields if they have to if that corn crop has to survive on the spring moisture that they're going to get over the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes, but I'm not sure that the dryness is going to be quite that poignant. I think that it will definitely have a drier bias, but in order for it to be as dry as what you're talking about, I think the ridge will have to be much stronger. And I don't believe that that is going to be possible because of a number of things that are going on globally in our atmosphere right now. That a ridge of that kind of intensity is going to be really difficult to develop, especially since it's got to form over the U.S. Midwest, where it's very wet right now and will continue to be very wet over the next few weeks. And so what that means is that when that ridge does start to build up, it's going to be spending a lot of time evaporating moisture out of the soil there and creating new thunderstorms. And ridges of high pressure cannot develop into mega ridges when there's so much moisture coming up, feeding back out of the soil. So I think the ridge, if we get it, it's going to be weak. And so for that reason, I don't think that the drier bias in Ontario will be anything that will fester into a major drought. But they will have a drier bias. But keep in mind also, those temperatures will be a little bit below average. And if they're below average, then that might help to conserve the moisture that they have when we move into that period of drier weather.
So as long as they're not too aggressive on their corn heat units, they'll get the crop will be fine.
I think so. I think Ontario will do relatively well. It won't be a perfect year, but what is a perfect year, right?
Well, last year was.
That's right.
So just to review what you said about the spring, you're expecting some on again, off again wet weather for the next 4 to 6 weeks?
Yes, I do think that that'll be true for Ontario as well as Quebec, and it'll be most significant as we get into May and probably early June. That'll be the wetter period.
So get planting when you can.
Absolutely.